Welcome back. I want to talk quickly about global variables and how evil they are. I mean, if you were paying attention, you might be asking yourself, Andre, why don't we just do global variables all the time? Remember how we had global lexical environment? Why don't we just declare all our variables into the global scope? Because whatever function we use, well, we'll have access to all those variables. Wouldn't that be nice? And everything has access to everything, and we don't have to worry about undefined, undeclared variables. Instead of having something like previously where we have these weird scope chains. Doesn't that make our code more complex? Harder to understand? Well, there's a few issues with what we call polluting the global namespace. Having too much data on our global execution environment. Remember, we have limited space, limited memory, right? And we talked about how memory leaks happen when we just have too much stuff in our memory heap, that eventually it just overflows, making things slower and slower and slower until our browsers crash. And one of the main ways that we do that is with global variables. But now you're thinking, well, I'm only going to declare a few variables. I'm not going to just have so many that I'm going to completely crash the web browser. Well, there's another issue here with global variables and why we want to avoid or minimize our use of global variables. Let's have a look at an example. You see, the issue with global variables is that we can have variable collisions. For example, imagine if we had multiple scripts here, which, as our applications get larger and larger, we have more than just one JavaScript file, right? And let's say we have in here a variable z that equals to 1. We have a variable zz that equals to 2. Oh, make sure I can spell here. And let's say we have variable zz equals to 3. And let's just add another one. Let's say 4. We don't need this script for now. And you know what? This one, I'm going to leave it at z, and let's say 10,000. I'm going to save, and I'm going to refresh. All right, I've refreshed the page. Now, if I look at z here, what would I have? Well, I get 10,000. I've overridden whatever I had at the top over here, that is z equals 1, because we had a collision. And the way this works is that in the HTML file, all these script tags get combined essentially into one execution context, right? So everything gets bunched up together. Everything is on the global execution context, and they override each other if there's any duplicates. So this creates a lot of possible bugs where we write different variables and maybe we think we're being safe here, but somebody on another file overwrites one of our super secret important variables. So how do we solve this issue? And we have an entire section on this topic, on the idea of modules. But I want to scratch the surface here in the next video when it comes to scopes. And that is how we use what we know now about scope and scope chains to avoid the issue of global variables. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.